And so we're having a fun little talk today about financial news resolutions. But before we get into that, we thought you might be curious about how the market's doing. So I'm going to jump over to Brandon. And Brandon, so maybe you could tell us, since we're at real time, how's the market doing right now?
It's pretty mixed right now. The Dow is up 52 points, NASDAQ is down 10 points, and S&P is up 12 points.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of financial news today, but we thought we would just kind of highlight a couple of things that might be a little bit more interesting to those of you that are watching today. Did you hear about Oprah Winfrey's weight loss? I know, Suzi, you've definitely heard about this.
Oh my gosh, first thing this morning, I heard she made like an additional $12 million yesterday.
I know, I was just talking to Robyn about this earlier. So she lost 26 pounds. That's a big deal. It's not easy to lose 26 pounds. I mean, that's almost the weight of my youngest child. And she lost in the Weight Watchers, and that caused the stock to jump, Brandon, did you hear it? 20%. So
crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty good for one day.
The power of
influencers. How much people just love Oprah.
Yeah.
Oprah just has power. It just shows that people absolutely, it was a marketing. I think they took a little bit of a risk as a marketing and PR. Do we go with someone like Oprah? Does she still have it? And I think it proves that people just support her. They want to be part of her. They want to root her on. People like an underdog. And she's always been honest that she struggled with weight. And I think the fact that she lost the weight and said she ate bread. We all love bread. I think that's endeared everybody to herself and to Weight Watchers.
For that, I'm going to have bread for lunch.
No, you have to have chocolate cake because it's National Chocolate Cake Day.
It's National Chocolate Cake Day?
Yeah.
Well, this is sounding like a really healthy day today.
So forget that weight loss financial realization.
Brandon is just like, I don't know how you feel about this, Brandon. Bread and cake.
I love it. Let's go to Suzi's cake afterwards.
Suzi's cakes or Suzi.
Shout out to Suzi's cakes.
Wonderful. And on other news, have you guys heard about Donald Trump? So Mr. Donald has decided he doesn't want to attend the GOP debate. So Suzi, I'm sure you have an opinion on that, being that you and your husband are all things political.
Well, I think it's an interesting move. It does show that whatever he does, he's still in the lead. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's the Donald.
Right. So it won't be as entertaining debate tomorrow. I can guarantee you guys that.
And Robyn, did you hear this? Actually, he doesn't want to attend the GOP debate, but he's on a quest to create his own conflicting show.
I don't think we should be surprised by anything Donald does. No. Everything he does is a ploy to get in the press. By not attending the debate, he got in the press. I mean, and it certainly has helped Megyn Kelly. She's on the cover of a magazine. She would have never been on the cover of a magazine. She's on the cover of a national magazine. I think people will tune into the Fox debate, knowing that he isn't there, just to see how everybody handles themselves and if they still Donald bash without him being there. But everything he does is a strategic move.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
it's really a win-win for everybody, because it probably will even have higher ratings without him there, like you said, Robyn.
Just to have his name.
Twitter will be exploding. I think it'll be, without a doubt, the number one thing on Twitter, because Donald will be tweeting why the debate's going on. He will have to get his voice out there. He will not be sitting quietly in a room.
Yeah, that just is not Donald. He has to talk. Well, on other news, how many of you are watching the Super Bowl?
Oh, I am.
The only thing that I understand from the Super Bowl is that it's football. but I do know Bruno Mars is performing, so that should be fun.
And come on, chips and guacamole, Winnie. Come on.
Oh my goodness, I read that. So supposedly Super Bowl Sunday is one of the most unhealthy days in the entire 365-day calendar, and it's only worse. The only worse unhealthy day is Thanksgiving.
Right.
So the average person who watches a Super Bowl will consume about 3,000 calories in one game. How do you feel about that, Brandon?
I'm all for it.
You look great. You don't have to worry
about it. Absolutely. I mean, you might as well, because you're cheering, you're getting excited, so it's all good.
Yeah, you're part of it is alcohol. calories from alcohol.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
okay.
good point,
Those are
Brandon.
those are not empty
That's
calories.
right
Those are
here.
good calories, right?
And it's the #1 day for pizza deliveries.
Oh,
There you go.
Really?
And the second most popular day, surprising for pizza deliveries, is Halloween. Parents don't want to cook on
Really?
Halloween because their kids
I
are
didn't know.
trick-or-treating.
Wow.
Okay, okay. I gotta say, so Robyn is visiting us from Philadelphia, and I've been just so blown away. I have to say, Robyn is like a walking, talking encyclopedia.
yeah.
I'm officially calling her encyclopedia.
Or we could just say
That's her
nerd,
middle
one or
name.
the other. Nerd's kind of shorter.
Well,
It's awesome.
let's talk about New Year's resolutions. I know, because that was what we said we were going to talk about. So we're going to talk about all things financial. And so to give you an idea, the only two that come from a financial background is Brandon down below me and myself. The other two are much smarter than us because they don't come from our industry. But we're going to talk about some of our tips on getting yourselves financially savvy and maybe a little wealthy for the year.
Sounds
So Brandon,
Great.
sound good?
Yeah.
I don't know about you,
Good.
but I mean, we could all use a little bit more money, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So there's this really cool article that we're going to kind of talk about. There's quite a few articles out there about New Year's resolutions, but Brandon and I are going to give you some of our own tips. So with that, I'm going to say that my #1 goal for each of you here is to get comfortable with talking about your money. Because I think #1 thing is you got to be comfortable talking to your spouse or your kids or your girlfriends or your parents about money. And the more comfortable you are to talk about money, that's really the first step to getting yourself really financially savvy. What do you think about that, Brandon?
Oh, absolutely. Once you're comfortable and you feel that it's achievable, then you could definitely make that goal a realistic achievement. Another thing that I wanted to point out was that when you make these resolutions or financial resolutions, not only should it be easy, but it should be something that it's accountable and something that's very easy to track. So if you set a goal that's extremely lofty, then you may start off at a good start, but once it gets too difficult, you just stop doing it. But if it's achievable and it's something that you can attain quickly, then you'll maybe keep at it.
I agree.
Well, Suzi and Robyn, do you have a financial goal?
I think mine's just to save more money. I kind of agree with what Brandon said. It goes back to something my father taught me, that if you actually write down what you really spend your money on, it can be rather scary. Like you see how much you spend on food and entertaining and clothes and things like that. And if you really write it down, then I think it's kind of like that accountability. What am I spending? And is this going to help me save any more money, whether it's for travel or for retirement or anything like that? I think sometimes when you actually see what you're spending your money on, it really adds up. And if it's on paper.
It's almost like with weight loss. They tell you to write down everything you eat if you're really trying to lose weight. It's the same thing to actually see it on paper, to see what you're spending. That can be eye-opening.
Well, that's perfect that you bring this up, because a lot of people, when we first meet with clients, that's usually the first thing that we ask them to do is to put pen to paper and write down everything that they're spending. And so a lot of people throughout our tweet chats and interviews will say, so do you have something that we can model? And we do. If you go to our website, Sungroup WP, you can actually download a free version of a budget worksheet, which is what we actually give to our clients each and every day. So you can take it, you can grab it, and it's an Excel spreadsheet. That's really neat. So you type into it, and it calculates for you automatically, thanks to our CTO, the total sum that you're spending, like monthly or annually, and you can just keep it privately for yourself. And when you're ready to share it, you can. But it's a good way to find out where those pennies are going, so I don't have to bother you about your Starbucks budget.
Oh, I knew that was going to come up. I knew it. I'm working on it.
I did give you that gift card. Did you use it?
Yes, I did already use it. Thank you. I think if you can find little things like that, Brandon's saying, not making it so lofty that down the road you just can't do it anymore and you pay. Eliminate the extra Starbucks, or maybe doing less dry cleaning, little things like that will add up.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, that's really a common thing we found this year is a lot of people just want to save a little bit more money. And so one of the ways that Brandon and I have done this for our clients, which is actually kind of fun, we like to label accounts. So for example, let's say your goal is to buy a new pair of boots or a new house. It could be anything. But if you label your account like boot account or house account, that keeps you focused on the goal. See, Super Bowl terminology right now.
Right.
Very good, Winnie.
What other ideas, Brandon? Because we do this all the time.
Another thing that really helps is once you find what goal you want, make it systematic. So one thing Winnie just mentioned was maybe saving up for a boot or whatever that goal is. If you make it systematic and have it automatically come out from your paycheck or your checking account maybe every 2 weeks, then eventually you'll build up a really nice balance.
Yes,
just if you don't think about it and do it, and if it's set up automatically, it'll be very, very successful.
Yeah.
Like you always say, making it a habit.
Yeah.
Yes. Make it a habit. It's not so difficult. And the power of automatic savings is a really beautiful thing. That's why a lot of times you'll look at your 401k and you're like, wow, my 401k is doing amazing well. Well, it's not that your 401k is doing amazing well, it's you're feeding it. Well, you're feeding it every 2 weeks, right? Hey, Kid Organics, thanks for joining us today, giving us love. We love love. So great. So the second point is setting up a realistic budget. So maybe, Brandon, I'll start with you. Let's talk about setting up a realistic budget.
Okay. Why don't you elaborate on that?
Okay. So, a lot of times we'll meet with clients or individuals in general, and they'll say, well, I don't know, Winnie/Brandon, like I'm making such and such amount of money, but I don't have any money left. Like I have all these expenses and I have, my husband this, my wife that, and my kids this and that, my parents, I'm taking care of my parents, all these different things. So how do you even start to set up a budget?
Well, the first thing you have to figure out.
Like Evan Taxi here is saying, if you don't have residual income, you will never make any headway. Yes.
So the first thing you want to figure out is how you got to look at your cash flow. And one thing when you set up a budget is where your outflow is going. And one thing that Winnie mentioned earlier was that we have a budget worksheet on our website. And that worksheet allows you to itemize all your expenses and all your outflow. So once you realize where all the money is going, you can kind of pick what's important and what's not.
And another thing that people don't realize is, at the end of the day, your budget is made up of two things. It's the positive and the negative. So if you feel like those two numbers are too close in between, then there are ways that you can supplement the positive and keep your negative the same way. So we've had clients, for example, that just feel like they just need a little bit of extra something because it's we're here in Southern California, but some of our clients, during the winter season, like to go skiing with their kids or whatnot. So how do they bring in a little bit of money to afford those passes or that vacation they want to do? So what they'll do is they'll take on extra work. And there's websites such as there's all these like Odesk and all these like Fiverr, all these little websites where you can do little tasks. I think even one I just found out recently, I think it's Jackrabbit or something like that, where you can put yourself out there, Uber, Lyft, you can make a few extra dollars, and that changes your positive. And then that way you have a little bit more money. Because actually at the end of the day, I don't know about you, but a lot of people they can squeeze out a little bit of time and work from home or do and just make a change. If you can't change your spending, right, Brennan?
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question. If for people who want to save money, sometimes their question is, should I put this money, let's just say it's an extra $100 a month, should I save it or should I pay off a high credit card debt? Which is wiser? What would your advice be for someone like that thinks maybe they should pay off a high credit card debt before they put it just in a savings account?
Yes. Well, I'm a big fan of paying off debt first, because if you pay off debt, that's the best investment, because it's an investment in you. And when you invest and you have debt, I always equate it to like swimming in the ocean and your leg is broken. So because one of your legs is broken because that's your debt and it's saddling. So you can't swim fast enough away from that shark. So it's really important to get the debt paid off and then invest, because there's, people always feel like there's an urgency to invest, and Brandon and I will tell you that if you have money in your account or your pocket, there's never a shortage of finding something to invest. So you don't invest out of urgency. Do it when it's well thought out. There's a plan. Meet with someone like Brandon and myself, and we'll get you in it. But don't. Number one rule: get that debt paid off. Now, with the exception of things such as your student loan or your mortgage. Yeah, those two need to be planned out a little bit. And it's not just a blanket answer, but credit card debt is a no-brainer. Credit card debt needs to be paid off. Brandon, what do you think about that?
Well, another way to look at it is, if for credit card debt, if you're paying, let's say, 10% to the bank, then in essence, you have to make up that 10% in earnings from your investment. So you're already at a negative. And to make 10% in the market it's doable, but it's still very challenging.
Right.
Good point. Very good point.
Yeah, very good point. And Evan Taxi here has said, if you work for someone else, you will never be financially free. How do you guys feel about that?
I don't know. I know some people who work for companies and they're very happy and they save money. I don't think that's necessarily true.
I would agree with that. We have most of our clients work for somebody.
Are maybe something that people look at. If the company offers benefits like 401k.
Absolutely.
Sure.
My husband is a diehard, loves his W-2, so I don't think he would ever move away from that, but he likes the fact that the company can offer security benefits. So I guess you can look at it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mentally you might have more freedom.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, to give you an idea, Evan, we've had clients that we've had for many, many years, over 15 years. And some of them may have not made more than 30,000, 40,000 per year. And then when they retire, they have a retirement plan or retirement assets of over $1 million. So I don't think it's so much where you work. It's as much as how much you spend and how much you save.
Good point.
And Evan says, you are not building your dream, you're building theirs. Well, that's interesting. That's actually pretty profound. I would say it just depends. I've worked for many people, and I think Brandon and I worked at a very large firm for many years. We were at Smith Barney for over a decade. And now we have our own firm. And I would say there's challenges with both. It just depends what's appropriate for you and your, I guess, financial profile at any given time. But Suzi's point is very well received, because if you think about it, how much we pay in medical insurance as someone self-employed is like scary compared to what we pay when we were employees. I just talked to one of our clients actually told us this recently. One of our clients who is self-employed, for a family of 4, they pay nearly $1,900 a month for health insurance. And that would probably be a lot less, I'm guessing, if you were working at a company for a family of 4. So. All right, so let's continue. So one of the other things is we talked about spending, we talked about budgets, and we talked about boosting income. So there are different creative ways where you can boost income. We've actually we've talked to a lot of very successful executives, believe it or not, who now drive for Uber and Lyft, and who are just having a fun time doing so. But if that's not for you, there's other things that you can do, and all you have to do is do a little Google search, and you can, if there's a will, there is an earning. So
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it too. The quote of the day from Winnie's son.
Yeah. For today. So Brandon, maybe we could talk about building an emergency fund.
Okay. What's really important is that you want to have at least 6 months of living expenses in your savings account. And you want to make sure that the account is liquid. So we don't want you to put that money in the stock market or mutual funds. It should be in money market or savings account. So when there is an emergency, you can pull into it without any penalties. So the term is 6 months.
I think I read somewhere today, Brandon, that 62% of Americans have less than $1,000 in emergency savings. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yes, it's alarming.
Yeah.
Especially now that most people too, probably in that category, not only have children that they, eventually want to put in school, but with the sandwich generation, so many people and people living longer, I mean, statistics, they also have to worry about that person who's 85 who might become financially dependent upon them as well. And assisted living and those programs are very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
They are. They're frighteningly expensive, depending on where you live in the country, too. But not only that, if you think about it, most people who get impacted from the sandwich generation frighteningly are mostly women. And women tend to have to then become caregivers, which also impacts them financially because they can't work full time. And for many women, they're balancing elderly parents and, in many cases, children, too. So, and nowadays, now that many of us are getting married later in life and having children later in life, it's actually very frightening. So you're planning for so many unknowns, and that's something, Suzi, maybe you could talk about. I mean, how does, I know in your situation, I mean, you have a child that's about to go to college, right?
Scary.
And he's made some very wise decisions thanks to good parenting, right?
Yes, and good friends like Winnie said, telling him to get a LinkedIn.
But I mean, how do you get your 18-year-old ready for college financially? How do you get him focused on? I mean, tuition aside, which is always a huge thing, room and board. But how do you make sure that when he leaves the nest, that he's going to be financially responsible?
I think that's probably one of the scariest things. Obviously, for parents, that huge tuition bill, room and board, like you said, is a big number. But day to day, as we were just saying about budgeting, is where all of a sudden you might get that call in the middle of the night. I have no money in my bank account. I need XYZ. So I think I probably started a little late, but really ingraining into him, the importance of the little things like the Starbucks and going out to lunch every day instead of eating at home, that kind of thing. I guess at the end of the day, as a parent, you want to set a good example. So maybe it starts there.
Yeah. And actually, that's something that Brandon and I will do a lot of times. We'll often ask our clients to bring in their kids that are about to start college or even getting married. I mean, any big financial move to talk and figure this out, because what we don't want to do is add to their already overwhelming college debt if he or she is going to have college debt. Right?
And it's stress too. You don't want to add to the stress. Obviously, in our situation, our kids are going to work while they're going to school. So they're going to have some of the income for all those extra things that they might want to do. So I think that's a win-win because they're going to learn obviously a lot of other things, and most importantly, how to balance work and school. And as we all know, sitting here, that balance is a challenge for the rest of life.
Exactly. So, I mean, let's talk to you, Robyn. I mean, Robyn, you've had a very successful career as a meteorologist and a reporter, and now you are one of the most total rock star publicist. I mean, there's a wait list to get on her to get with Robyn. But looking back, if you were to talk to your 20-year-old self, I guess are there any financial lessons you've learned?
Well, I actually think it was great working for a company when you first got started. I worked for NBC, I worked for Comcast, and as you said, they take care of your medical benefits. They set you up in a 401k. When you work for Comcast, you get free cable and high-speed internet.
Oh, nice. That's a nice perk.
Well, not only that, you get to watch all these HBO and Showtime shows, but it's a significant savings every month. So I think when you start with a company, sometimes that's a little bit easier than starting on your own. And then when you go on your own, you are surprised at how many, things that you are now responsible for. And definitely the biggest one is certainly your own health care that you're responsible for. But I guess like when other people come up to me and say they want to go, they're 21 and they're getting their own career, I think sometimes the best advice is swallow your pride. And I lived at home, and I know my friends were like, well, you're on TV and you're a reporter. I just still couldn't afford to live on my own. I still lived with my parents for a little while. And I think sometimes you just got to be humble and don't get so carried away that, ooh, I got this great job and I have to go show off and get this cool apartment and this wonderful car. Just swallow your pride, live at home a little bit, take the subway, and don't get yourself in debt. And I think that's probably the best advice, because I think sometimes you do get really excited about your first real job.
That's right. And actually, that's really a good point, because interesting enough, a lot of people learn to live within their income, right? And so what happens is as your income grows, your spending grows too. Right. And like Brandon and I sometimes will sit with a particular prospective client, and they'll say, I don't know, my income's like, I don't know, make up some number, like $1 million a year, but I don't have any money left. Well, how did you survive when you were 20 years old and your income was maybe 5% of what you make now? You just learn to live within those means. So I guess a couple tips I would give, having worked with people who are looking towards retirement all these years, is kind of two things, right? Number one, look at your biggest expenses and how can you keep those expenses reasonable. So your housing is a big thing. Can you keep your housing costs low? I'm with Robyn. I actually lived with my parents for way too long, but it was a great decision financially. And number two, one of the other expenses is your car. So I plan to drive my car till it stops working, until my husband has to push it out of the garage. But that's another way to keep the expenses down.
Brandon's face was just priceless on that one. Absolutely priceless.
I don't even want to tell Brandon the next car I'm going to get.
Don't talk about it now.
But all joking aside, Brandon is brilliant in terms of helping you decipher how to buy a car and terms and leasing and those kinds of options. So very smart guy in there. Yeah, Brandon, do you have a comment on this topic?
Well, I think buying a car is probably one of the worst financial decisions. But for me, part of it is emotional as well, because I like cars. So
I like cars too.
Yeah, you do.
I don't like the payment.
I don't like the payments either.
And I think sometimes you have to choose. Like Brandon said, he likes cars. I'm not really into cars because I feel like I always take the train to New York. So I leave my car at the train station. No one sees it. But I like vacations. Like I like maybe one vacation to go to Europe. So I think everybody has their own little area that they think they can justify. That's where I'm going to spend a little more on.
Right.
Very good point. I think with the millennials, going back to lessons to your younger self, and I have 5 millennials.
That's a lot of millennials.
Instant gratification, like avoiding that instant gratification when you're shopping. Walk away and think about it, and most likely you'll probably go home and say, "I need that $100 shoes." And so I think that's something with younger people that even I remember being that way. I think that's kind of a younger thing. You want that instant gratification when you get that first paycheck.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think of my younger self, and being the nerd that I was, I actually made some pretty smart financial decisions. And so this is something, Keto Organics wants a Tesla. Okay. But anyway, I want one too. Can you pay for it? but all joking aside, I mean, one of the best things that I did, I was fortunate. I had a CPA that kind of highly encouraged me to do so. But one thing he said is like, I don't care what you want to buy, Winnie, but you're going to get your butt over the bank and open up an IRA. And so I started my first IRA at the age of 19. And that was my gift to myself each year. And yeah, it's great. It made a big difference because it got a 19-year-old to think about the importance of saving and how cool it was to have like some money in my account. And And of course, looking back, the financial advisor in the bank put me in a really bad mutual fund, Brandon. But now we know it wasn't Brandon, but we no, it wasn't Brandon. But I'm just saying that looking back, she didn't make the best. It was she. She didn't make the best decision for me investment wise. But now I know like the impact we can make on young people. So why are we talking about young people like we're so old?
We are so old. I think also with young people like ourselves and the younger, and not even, I think that's a great point, Winnie, like not even saying that it's a retirement account, but it's a savings account. So even for someone when you're 19 or 20, retirement seems like 5,000 years away. So I think you just encourage them and use more words about savings, and it becomes that habit that both you and Brandon were talking about. Maybe that's the way to gear that generation towards something.
Yeah, and retirement is not an old thing, because if you think about it,
no,
you could retire at 40, you could retire at 50. Nobody said you had to retire at 70. It's just, yeah, David made a good point. Time is fleeting. Invest now, people. I love it. But it's so true. But the thing is, at the end of the day, remember, the best thing to collect is money for yourself. Mm-hmm. Think about that for a moment, right?
I have a question for both of you and Brandon. Do you think most people think that they can't go to a financial advisor unless they make X income and they sell themselves short, where really they should go to a financial advisor no matter what their income is?
I think I should let Brandon answer that.
I think the public do feel they're a little intimidated by financial advisors. And that's a big misconception. Most financial advisors, we manage not only your liabilities, but your assets. We do a comprehensive planning. So it doesn't matter how much wealth you have, we just want to make sure you're financially secure. So if you need help, definitely seek out help, because there's plenty of people that are out there that are willing to help you. And there's also a lot of good resources online. If you don't want to talk to a financial advisor, there's a lot of financial websites that you can, go online and just Google it. And the tools are out there.
I think so many people that have a CPA, and this was my case, where I never met a financial advisor. The CPA just made the arrangements, and so I never had that relationship, which I think is so important. And that people, they weren't intimidated. They would realize that having that great financial advisor relationship is so important, and it just shouldn't be something that your accountant is setting up for you, and there's this information that comes in the mail to you every month with all your accounts and what money you're making. I think having a personal relationship is so much more important.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, your money is very personal. So you really want to make sure you have a really open dialogue and be able to call your financial advisor for pretty much anything, or at least reach them via email, or just be able to talk to them. Because if you don't have that relationship, then how do they really know you, and how do they give you good advice? Mm-hmm. I'm famous for these like 2 or 3 hour client meetings, huh, Brandon?
Sometimes longer.
But I want to get to know you and hug you and love you, so we need
That's
time.
Right. That's right.
Well, if you're doing things with our money, I would think people need to think about that more, that's so important, and how awesome that you would know everything about them, what's important in their life, their goals for when they retire, how much money they want to have, and for their children. So it's so important than just having some kind of technical relationship with your financial advisor.
Because there's so many things that a computer can't do for you. Because I know right now there's a big trend of going robo, meaning that you don't have an advisor, you just go online and you do everything by yourself. But there's so many factors that you don't know. For example, Robyn made really good points. Like, I need to take into account things that you're going to one day be taking care of your parents, or that you have a child with a special need, or that, you have a husband that spends too much money, and so you need a plan for that. But those types of things a computer doesn't know. Only an advisor will know. So it's a lot like Brandon and I talk about that. It's like having a robot be your primary care physician. It just doesn't work that well, because we need to know, like, you're such a wonderful, vibrant human being. We need to know everything about you to give you good advice.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
So Brandon, Dave have a question. I have been living in China for the last 20 years, slowly investing at the Vanguard Group. Any suggestions for a better place? Well, first off, it's great of you to join us from China, so that's pretty impressive. So thank you so much for tuning in. And the Vanguard is actually a great place to invest. It's a really reputable firm. In fact, when I first started investing prior to being at Sun Group, for myself, I invested at Vanguard. But as my needs expanded and as my income changed, I did feel, at least for me and my clients, that it was helpful to have an advisor kind of guide me, so you make less mistakes along the way, and also to make sure that you're on track. I highly recommend this gentleman down below, who is also my financial advisor, and someone I trust explicitly. But you really want to have someone that you trust and who you can talk to about investing, wherever that person be, whether they be in China or they be here. I think as your needs expand, so number one, you have more income, or you just have more questions and you really want to take control and make sure you're going to have a fantastic retirement, or whatever that may be, whatever the other thing you want to plan for, that's the time to have an advisor versus Vanguard. Although, Vanguard is very good. Nothing wrong with that. Brandon, do you have more to add to that?
Something I do want to add is that investing is just part of finances. There are other components. When you do work with an advisor, they can do a comprehensive financial planning for you. So if you want to map out your retirement, or if you need to do estate planning or start saving for college education, those are extra things that an advisor could help you achieve. So typically with an investment company, their only focus is investments, and that's it. And that's just a small component of the overall financial picture.
Yes. And David had a really good question. In addition, he said, your thoughts on overseas investing, in his case, China, which is rapid development. So I guess we can comment on that just briefly. Our firm, we're a really big believer in diversification. Just like anything else, it's important to have a little bit of everything. Not everything, but it has to be well diversified. You don't want everything in China. If you think about it, you live in China, your income's from China, your paycheck's from China, your spending's in China. So it probably makes sense for you to diversify with countries and industries that are not as sensitive to movements in the Chinese economy. And that ensures, because, for example, we're here in the United States, it doesn't mean we're invested completely in the United States, because things will change. Just like this year, we anticipate the market to have a pretty rocky time. So we want to make sure our portfolio is defensive to keep us afloat long term. Brandon, do you want to take that?
Just like when you mentioned, it's really important for you to have a diverse portfolio. So investing, having a component of your portfolio in foreign countries or even emerging markets, it's really important. But for us, our main focus for our clients this year is focusing domestically. We see a lot more opportunities in the US. Having said that, our portfolios will have a small component in the international category.
David's communicating to us in Chinese now. Very cool. Suzi, So Suzi, I mean, these are things that we've kind of talked about a little bit, and I'm sure you find this of interest too, because we are in a global economy, and it's good to think about. I mean, I applaud David for thinking this way, but we do feel that it's very important for every client who's saving, if their time horizon is long, to have diversification.
Absolutely. And I think maybe something else, I have a question about diversification and what the market's doing right now. What advice would you give to people? I even asked you this a couple weeks ago. What should people be thinking about their 401k? Should worry? Do we keep investing in our 401k, or do we take that money every month and put it somewhere else?
Go for it, Brandon.
I think I got partially actually to bring up, but I think your question is, during this volatile market, should we continue to invest in your 401k? Answer is absolutely yes, because you have to remember 401k is for retirement. So unless you're planning to retire in the next 6 months or so, and if that's the case, then maybe not, then you got to think about distribution. But if you're investing for long term and your investment horizon is 10, 20, 30 years from now, then no matter what's happening in the markets now, it just eventually the market will recover. And when you see the market become extremely volatile, and if there's a dip in the market, take it as an opportunity to maybe add more. You want to buy more shares.
And not only that is, if you're invested properly, you'll have some investments in such as fixed income, which is just a fancy word for bonds, and the stock market, international, different segments. It could be metals and alternatives. So some sectors will do well and some sectors won't do as well, depending on the change of the market. So if the market continues to weaken and the bond market improves, it may be a point where you might trim some of your fixed income positions and add over to equities. So that's all a really some reason why you work with an advisor, to be able to have them kind of help you through this process. Because interesting enough, and I'm sure all of you have heard the survey, but most investors never truly profit in a bull market, and in fact they get hurt more often than not because they do things in the opposite way. So the market takes a tumble and really goes down. A typical investor who doesn't have an advisor will panic and sell. And they will keep their money out of the market until the market's actually recovered. But that's usually not the best idea. It's usually better to when the market's down and things are depressed, to add to the portfolio, because you're buying at cheaper levels. I use the analogy of, let's say, I'm a big Costco fan. Let's say we go to Costco and everything's 70% off. How much would you buy of the things that you need to have that don't go bad, right? Paper towels, things, those staples that you would back the truck in, because you would know that there was value. So if the market, good quality companies are depressed, that might be a chance for you to add long term. But again, something that you really need to talk to a professional about.
Awesome. Thank you.
Now, why do you guys think this might be a rocky year?
Oh, all this technical and fundamental research every day. And not only that, not everything can go up. And how long has it been going up, Brandon?
Does the election factor into that?
Absolutely. Everything factors. Even Oprah's weight loss factors into that. Hello. And if you think about it, the market is essentially two people, right? And in its simplest form, the market is just two people, a buyer and a seller. So at any given day, if there are more sellers than buyers, the market comes down. And the reverse is true as well. So there's so many factors. There's earnings, there's profitability. I just read, did you know, everyone talks about how Apple has all this cash on the books. And they do, they have a lot of cash. However, do you know that most of it's not liquid? So Apple is investing their cash. So what should you be doing with your cash that you don't need right away?
Investing.
Well, invest. Yeah, smartly, though, but you should.
I like that.
Okay, good. So let's continue on. Let's talk about, let's talk about planning in general. We talked about retirement planning. You want to talk about education planning or estate planning? Let me know if you have any questions on that. They're not exactly some of the most popular topics.
For new is the estate plan. So maybe you guys can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a popular topic, Brandon. You talk about that.
Well,
a lot of people don't have them, right, Brandon?
Most people don't have it, but it's something that you want to set up, because you want to make sure that if something ever happens to you, that your loved ones are taken care of. So they don't have to scramble through your records, go through probate, things like that. So basically, you're going to set up a will and a trust that basically says, if something ever happens to me, I want all my access and all these stuff that I own to go to specific people.
Mm-hmm. And we're actually going to have a complete blab on that particular topic. But estate planning is just a fancy word for if something happens to me, who's going to make that decision? And there's a lot of decisions that you have to make. I mean, if you're a child and you have older parents, you got to think about who would take care of them if you weren't here. And
Sure.
if you're a parent and you have children, you got to figure out who would take care of your children if you weren't here. And it's not just about money, but what if you're bedridden and you can't make those decisions for yourself, healthcare decisions? And that's part of your estate plan too. So generally speaking, we say if you have, you own at least $100,000, and it sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. But if you think about if you own a car and you have some assets and maybe you own your home, then it does make sense to get a living trust done. It's not that expensive, but it's more expensive if you need it later on and you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I'm sure it can alleviate a lot of drama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It can.
Family
Those
members
family fights
and
can be
fighting.
nasty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's a hard one to think about, but everybody should have one. Nowadays you can even do it online, or you can buy software at Costco to do it. But it's one of those things. I think if you can afford it, to have a good attorney help you draft it, it just gives you someone to talk to about it, and they can help you with the planning and making decisions. I tweak my estate plan quite often because I kept having children. Brandon, have you done your living trust? Yeah. And you put your car in your trust too, huh, Brandon?
Yeah, absolutely. Any asset that you own.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So let's talk about the topic of, let's talk about career change, because the new year is when a lot of people are thinking about changing jobs. And I know, I think Evan had brought up a good point, and Dave talked a little bit about, but look at Dave is going to be calling his treasurer after this blab. Sweet. Well, a lot of people talk about change jobs. And not only that, some people are finding their first job. Like in Suzi's case, your son is finding his first job. So maybe we could talk about if you're in a situation where you feel like you're stuck. Because a lot of our clients will say that, well, I want to change jobs, but I feel like I'm not that attracted to new employers. What do you do financially to get yourself ready for a change of career? Robyn, do you have any ideas on that?
Well, I think I kind of agree with what Brandon said, that you gotta have to have a few months of savings just in case you don't get that job right away. Mm-hmm. And I also agree with something Winnie and Suzi both said as well. When you're thinking about getting another job, which was the case with me, I switched careers completely. Start dabbling a little bit in that job. Do some freelance work. Do a little bit of work before you truly leave the corporate world and the job you have now to see if you really want that other career, but also so that you're not just all of a sudden sitting at home completely unemployed. At least you can say, well, I've started some writing and I write for, let's just say you're leaving to go become a writer, that you already did some writing and you kind of laid some groundwork. So that resume isn't totally brand new, but I do think you have to kind of mentally decide, if I'm going to do this and I really want to be happy and switch careers, that you have to have some financial savings.
Yes, because taking from your retirement for a job career can be quite detrimental on your. So yeah, you should plan things out. The earlier you start, the easier it can be, and get your saving up and your expenses down. But the other thing I would say is work on your LinkedIn profile and make sure that's up to date and that it looks really good. Because my husband had told me this. A lot of employers know that you're starting to look for a new job when you start tweaking your LinkedIn profile. So you should try to. Yeah, you should try and do it regularly.
And I think it's okay to tell people. I think, maybe not too many people in your work, but once in a while you have to say, I think I'm going to start writing a little bit, or, again, taking that freelance work so that people know and they can look out for you, because they genuinely think people are good human beings. So I think if you let people know you want to switch careers and you want to start a different career, they will look out for you, and they might give you a lead, or they might put you in touch with a contact or give you some advice. You're not completely alone out there.
That's a great point. Jen Louis says, consider getting involved with a good nonprofit foundation or event to network when in career transition. That's great advice.
Yeah.
You never know who you might meet.
That's right. So make friends. I think Jen shared something with me, I think last week on Facebook that I thought was really profound and just so smart. She said, be good to those on your way up because those people will be with you on your way down. And I thought, that's deep. I like that a lot. Yeah. So I would say like Robyn's point is so true. Make friends wherever you can. And communication is good. Like as an employer, when an employee comes to me and tells me that they're thinking about changing a job, I feel good that they were kind enough to share that with me and I could prepare my own business as well.
I think that's really important.
Yeah. And then let's talk about maybe Brandon, we could transition over to you. Let's talk about someone who actually leaves their company. What do they do about their finances that's at their previous company? Do they just leave it there?
Typically, the rule of thumb is if you leave your company, take your money with you. And most people that work at companies, they tend to have a 401k that their employer set up for them. And typically within a 401k, your choices are very limited. You may have anywhere between 10 and 20 choices. But ideally, you want to take that money that you've invested and put it into an IRA. So that's in an individual retirement account. So you go from 10, 20 choices to thousands of choices. And once it's in an IRA, not only do you have more choices, you get to sit down with an advisor and pick an allocation that's suitable for you and hopefully better investments than what you had within your 401k.
Right.
And of course, when you leave, there are obviously other reasons. It might be retirement, you were laid off, and that brings another component to financial planning. So whatever the situation is, at that stage, you have to have that discussion with your advisor.
Right. Well, what about a short-term income needs, Brandon, when they first leave their company and they don't have a job right away? How do they survive financially?
Well, it really depends on what their savings are. So ideally, we all want to have 6 months of living expenses and savings account or money market. If you don't have that and all your assets are within your 401k, then there might be some strategies that we can create. It might be short-term distributions, or we might look at other options. And the only way to give you a proper advice is to really sit down with an advisor so they know your total financial picture.
Right. Very good. That's so true because I remember it's just hard because you just don't know. But there's so many companies now. You may have read. I wrote a piece on Forbes called 2015 for us was the year of the buyout, right, Brandon? We had so many companies that we work with who gave their employees buyout packages. Essentially, that means they're asking you to leave, but they'll give you money to leave. And that was for many people in one particular company we're working with in downtown LA. We had employees that had worked there for 25 years. So they didn't have a resume for 25 years, and it was frightening. But I would say true financial independence, whether you work for someone or you work for yourself, is to have money set aside so that you can make changes that are best for you. To be able to say, if I want to unplug, if I want to go on vacation, I can, and I can survive and I can make those payments. So 3 months minimum, 6 months ideal. Sounds like a lot, but if you start small and you really just, chip away at it, you can get there and it'll feel amazing. That's financial independence.
It gives you choices.
Yeah. And Jen Louis added that make living adjustments. If you're leaving a job, write a list of needs and wants. You can see clearly where you can alter monthly spend while looking for a new career. Very well said. Yeah.
I think a lot of people that get that entrepreneurial spirit after working for a company for a while are used to that, coming home from work and working that dream at night at home, whatever it is, to build it to what it can be, where you can finally make that break, like Robyn was saying, kind of do that balancing act to make sure not only financially you're going to be fine, but that is the path that you want to take.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Emily was kind enough to include a link to that buyout piece that we talked about, so you can see it in the messages below. And then we're down to our last 4 minutes. So I thought maybe this would be a good chance, Suzi, if I could direct this to you. What can we look forward to? Because now we're going to be doing this Blab Fest every single week, every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific. Suzi, what can we look forward to next week?
Well, next week, we can look forward to Brandon and Winnie being in New York City. So we're not going to have an official Blab, but I hope all of you out there will stay tuned to Winnie's Twitter to see what they're up to and find out what the market's doing. They're going to make visits to CNBC, Wall Street Journal, and all kinds of other things. So we'll be watching what you guys are doing next week. After that, we're going to be talking about in February Valentine's Day. We're going to be talking about hopefully food and flowers and ways you can have a more affordable Valentine's Day. We're going to be talking about tax preparation. And we're also going to be starting our blogging series, which first one is going to be about Mommy Blogger. And I know, Winnie, you're going to be really helpful for all of you out there that are maybe thinking about a blogging pathway, all the ways that you can make money and what you can do to protect yourself when you start that path. So I think this is going to be really exciting, this blogging series. So you'll get to hear from different types of bloggers. But next time it'll be Mommy Bloggers.
Fun. Yeah, good points. And I thought that was really interesting. So our next Blab will be all about Valentine's Day. And then we're going to the tax season.
Yeah, so we go from love, roses, and dining to tax.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with that, please go ahead and follow all of us on Twitter and Blab. We would love to stay connected with you. Huge thank you to Robyn Stevens, who flew in all the way from Philadelphia and is in our Southern California office. And you can see she's at Robyn Stevens PR. Please connect with her. Suzi Day 123.
Thank you so much. This is fun.
Yeah, and then Brandon, give lots of connections to Brandon. Brandon, the red egg, needs your connection. And I do too. So please connect with me. We love to connect with all of you. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us after we end this. You can find us on all the social media channels, and our website is sungroupwp.com. Thank you, and lots of love to you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.